I literally.
Well, good evening, good afternoon, that's the one, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first episode of the F1 show here on GlacierTV. We're going to be with you every 2 weeks right before the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series races, bringing you a little bit of an insight into the parade that they call the Bernie Ecclestone show, and also, of course, the iRacing World Championship Series as well. With me for this broadcast, we have Marius Connenbeck, and we also have my good friend Paul Hadley and Rob Cuss. Paul, I'm going to start by saying hello to you. Welcome to GlacierTV.
Hello, thank you, Will. So all on you this, so on your head be it.
We're used to it. We're going to start immediately by talking about F1, Formula 1 World Championship. And last time out, Sebastian Vettel was finally able to win a race, not only in July, but also at his home track as well.
Yep, he did. And it looked close at the end, but I don't know if anyone else was feeling the pressure, but I thought he had it all in hand. But the TV broadcasters like to boost it up, the finish, I guess. But yeah, it's surprising that he'd never won in Germany before, but I guess he's finally got that one done.
I mean, there was always tracks that people won't get at. I remember, like, Michael Schumacher, I think it was Austria. It was that one track that he always struggled at. So
He never did that well at Silverstone either, actually. Until he won, when he did win, he won in the pit lane.
True, back in 1998, and I think that was probably actually the greatest thing that's ever happened strategic-wise, mainly because Ross Brawn's intelligent. But let's talk about the race itself. It was a good start by Vettel, actually a good start as well by Mark Webber, who recovered from his disastrous start at Silverstone.
Yeah, that was most shocking part of the race, that had a few shocking moments that we're so used to Mark Webber. Yeah, he qualifies well, but then he drops about 4 places, bless him. Probably why he's off to sports cars next year. A, it's a rolling start, and B, his teammate can do it for him. But yeah, he made a great start and he was hassling the two ahead of him, but then he ran a bit wide. But that was the shocking thing, and yeah, the most shocking, I guess, was that Lewis dropped about 4 places in that one.
We'll talk a little bit about Mark Webber's retirement in a little bit, but Hamilton struggled earlier on, and I think overall, the race, as you say, it was Vettel's to lose more than anything. Of course, we know how good the Lotuses are on managing their tyre wear. I don't think they're still as good as they were at the very start of the season. Other teams have caught up in that respect. But I think, you know, people expected Raikkonen to be good, but at the same time, I think that Lotus have lost a little bit now in that strategic department. We saw what happened back at Silverstone, of course, and now here at the Nürburgring. I think they're just losing that tiny little bit of an edge when it comes to strategy.
Yeah, it was confusing when I sort of watched the race of a group of people, and when Kimi came into the pits with 10 laps to go, we were like, hey, why not risk it? You know, they've got Grosjean there for that's going to second. One of the cars is going to at least finish second, and as soon as he came into the pits, it spoke of a team that didn't really want to risk anything. And 2 races in a row, they've not listened to Kimi when it comes to strategy, and this is a guy that they're desperate to hold on to. You think they'd at least try and risk a win. If it didn't, with the way the tyres were going, it's 10 laps to go. If it didn't, you know, quite happen, the worst that could have, I think the worst is Alonso would have got them on the last lap, but so they would have finished 4th. That's the worst that could have happened. So it's worth a risk.
Yeah, but he had a bit of a problem with his radio, didn't he? So they couldn't make heads or tail of what he was actually saying. So yeah,
like, I guess
Lotus fall down massively in strategy compared with any other of the top F1 teams. If I was saying to a few of the other guys yesterday, if you gave the Lotus cars to McLaren or Mercedes or whatever, you would have seen a different outcome to that race for sure.
The thing is,
I've got no doubt in my mind of that.
It's perhaps a reaction to how badly they did Silverstone by going for a risk, that perhaps they felt too conservative in Germany. But yeah, so it's a team that's just really on its back foot strategy-wise at the minute.
I think actually that's exactly the point I was going to come to. Of course, they went the wrong way at Silverstone. Were they just trying to be more conservative? Of course, Kimi was peeved, to say the very least, after Silverstone about how, you know, the team didn't work for him. And then they might have gone that conservative option. Of course, he still came out with a good result. I mean, we're not saying he would have beaten Vettel, to be fair, but you know, were Lotus just trying to make sure they didn't have that situation again?
Probably. Yeah, I'd say it's not anything that bodes well when it comes when it comes to Kimi staying with the team for next year, he's got to have full confidence in the team, and they keep making these mistakes. I mean, they may have had issues with the radio, and I guess when it comes down to it, you could say Kimi himself could have decided to stay out, but maybe he didn't get the information on the radio that he thought his tyres would last. But yeah, it was a big surprise to all of us. And Lotus, if they want to keep Kimi next year, they at least have to start listening to him and give him some reason to have some confidence in the team. Maybe it's because it's a young team. They just don't seem to have that sort of confidence a bigger team has about strategy. Everything else seems to be going well for them.
I don't think they have a natural leader, as in, you got your figureheads at each F1 team. Williams, Frank Williams, Ross Brawn. Those names, you look at Lotus, and it's like, oh, so who does that then? They haven't got that aficionado like every other team has. The ones that the drivers stand up to or look up to. If, as I said, if Ross Brawn was there, it'd be different for sure.
I don't accept the argument, though, that Lotus are a young team. Of course, yes, they've gone through, many iterations
Naive,
since.
I think is the word.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I meant, really.
I think they had that leader in Briatore for a long period of time. In my opinion, Bullier, he's kind of in the middle between, the likes of Dominicali and Ross Brawn and Christian Horner, that he's a very good all-round team principal. I just don't think that he's brave enough when it comes to that sort of thing. He's not got that strategic mind of Ross Brawn. Let's not forget, this is the guy that made Michael Schumacher do, 4 pit stops or something at Hungary in '98? So he's not as brave as him as that. He's not as calm and collected as Horner to be able to, deal with every issue as they present themselves very methodically. And Dominicali, he rules that Ferrari team with a rod of iron. So I think that's one of the issues that Bullier struggles in. But
Ross Brawn did have Michael Schumacher, which you can depend on. Kimi, and I'm a big Kimi fan for all the best oil in the world. Is he going to listen? Is he going to be on form? It's not exactly a constant that Michael was. If you could have the best strategy in the world and he decides he knows what he's doing, and all the T-shirt quotes. But yeah, I know what you mean, but it's a completely different kettle of fish because of the drivers. There's a lot less dependability on the drivers. Michael Schumacher, you tell him to do 4 pit stops, he can do qualifying laps. Kimi might just get bored or not listen and not be in tune this week.
I think that's an important thing, and you have to say, though, Lotus still are looking strong as a team. They clearly are right now the 3rd best team in Formula 1. You have got, Mercedes, they keep on trying, they keep on doing it, but you have to say that they are still struggling. Yeah, they're great in qualifying. They're amazing in qualifying. It reminds me of, about 2099, stuff like that, when the McLarens were always clearly faster in qualifying pace. But you then consider that to the fact that they're still struggling with tyre wear in the race. And their cars, they just seem to abuse the tyres too much, which in today's Formula 1 pool just doesn't do anything for a team.
No. That's Mercedes. Yeah, it's back to before the tyre test drama, and that's why they had all that tyre test drama, because they were so struggling with tyres. They just needed to do something, and it's frustrating from a Formula 1 fan's point of view, in that we need a strong number 2 team. Red Bull are getting away with this championship because they are the constant team, and sometimes it's Ferrari standing up to them, sometimes it's Lotus, and sometimes it's Mercedes. There's not one constant strong threat at the minute. McLaren obviously disappeared as well, so they need. That's why Red Bull are just running away with the championship. They need stronger opponents and more consistent opponents. They have, especially when it comes to Vettel, consistency week after week. If they're not winning, they're finishing 2nd or 3rd. The other teams, if they're not winning, they're finishing lower ends of the top 10. It's not what they need to maintain the championship challenge.
It's not all Vettel, man. It's definitely not all Vettel. They've got Adrian Newey,
yeah,
the best designer of F1 cars.
Yep,
pretty much ever to grace this planet. Barring the days of like Colin Chapman back in the day, who were pioneers. I'd put Mr. Newey in that bracket. If you said, right, like IndyCar, let's make it all single mate. Adrian, you design the car, yada yada yada, put all the different engines in, then go racing. You'd probably see a much closer and very different championship.
Well, that's a championship I'd want to watch, but I think that'd have to be I think it'd have to be on water because he likes his boats. I think it's the only way you get him to do that.
I think with Newey, though, that's the thing. I mean, let's not forget, he actually still designs his cars, with a ruler and a pencil. He doesn't like having computers, and he's the last of a very dying trade when it comes to designing cars in that way. And over the years, Newey has been worth probably somewhere in the region of about 0.3 of a second to every single car he's ever designed. And You know, I think he will now finish his career at Red Bull. I'm sure deep down inside he'd love to have gone and worked for Ferrari, but I don't think he'd like the atmosphere at Ferrari. But you this is a time of the year that Ferrari normally starts kicking it into high gear and actually starts doing something themselves. And it's kind of annoyed me that, because Ferrari kind of build up into a crescendo in the last the last third of the season. But the issue is that they struggle that first half and they never put themselves into contention for a championship. Then after that, what they do is then on the back foot, because they haven't spent as much time designing the car in the second half of the year for the next year's regulations. Ferrari, in my opinion, they almost need to give up this season. I know that, you know, the Gazzetta dello Sport would shoot me for saying that, but, you know, they need to start thinking about next year.
Already.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, especially with Monza on the way, there probably would be a national inquiry in Italy if they gave up. But I know what you mean. They have won 2 races earlier on, and that was a surprise and compared to the start to last year. But yeah, Ferrari, it is a quandary. Is their car good enough? It doesn't look like it. Do you carry on developing it? Can you do anything about Red Bull? Do you just give up and hope that the tyres will come to you? It's a tricky one. Massa's not. You know, he was looking good, and now he's sort of started throwing it off the road. So Constructors' Championship looks out.
I think there's a reason behind that.
Because it's designed for London?
No, not at all. I think he's testing parts. I think they're giving him parts to put on his car to test during racing, which are failing or breaking, because they can't test anywhere else.
Right.
So Massa's, he performed at the start, but then all of a sudden it's like, what's going on? He suddenly got slower. A driver like that doesn't suddenly get slower. He's not rubbish, otherwise he wouldn't be in a Ferrari. But I think he's taking one for the team and testing upgraded parts or new parts on the car to try and improve Alonso's bid at the title, and they're not working out currently.
Rob, Mick Asalo drove a Ferrari, by the way. So some bad people have driven in Ferrari before.
Yeah, but that's, you know...
And also, you are right in some ways. In some ways, he could well just be a glorified Giancarlo Fisichella or Marc Genet. You know, an additional test driver for Ferrari, because we all know they have a clear number one driver. It's been like that from day one, Paul.
Yeah, and it's just working out. I was trying to go through my head how Massa's lost it recently. He crashed in Nürburgring. That was a bit suspicious the way he did crash. There's lots of crashes in Silverstone and in the wet and all that. I'm just trying to work out if things are snapping. Yeah, Monaco as well, yes.
Where he veered left twice.
Yeah.
In this weird place to crash. It's just his crashes are weird. Silverstone wasn't his fault. That was Pirelli. You know, the tyre blew up. That wasn't down to Massa.
That was a team, but okay.
Well, yeah, all right, whatever. It was a failure that wasn't really accountable for. But the weird crashes have definitely been Monaco and the last race, where his car, he's like 20 foot from the braking zone, and suddenly his car spears off the wrong way. It's like, hey, that's not right. Something's broken, you know. And I do believe that he's just been said, right, you've got to test parts. That's it. We can't do any other testing. These are the new parts. We're putting them on your car. If you think they're good and make a difference, then great. If we don't, then unlucky.
If they don't, you'll crash. If they do, just move over for Fernando.
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh dear.
We had that again, by the way. We had that faster than you thing's gone on again recently, haven't we?
Oh, yeah, that was I think his direct quote as a parody, even mid-race. But team orders aren't as illegal anymore, so they could have just said move over.
Get out of the way.
A little bit. I feel a little bit sorry for Grosjean in that, because he was the quicker Lotus driver, and I know people diss him all the time, and he shouldn't be in F1, but he showed last weekend that he should be, because he is mighty quick when he's got his brain in gear. But this is where I think the team principle comes back into play as well, like we alluded to earlier, that he hasn't got a Ross Brawn or, you know, one of the Flavio Briatore or one of the guys to nurture him in a way that they did with the other younger talent that come through, you know, like Schumacher and Vettel and that. So there's another flip side to that whole naivety of Lotus that I love Lotus to bits, but because of their history and everything, but they are naive when it comes to that. You've got a blindingly quick driver, yet he's not being nurtured in the right way.
I'll give you an example of that. I'm going to move away from F1. Takuma Sato. he struggled in F1 pretty much his entire career because Eddie Jordan was in a team where he had to get results, had to get points because sponsorship depended on it. Then with BAR, he was the token Japanese driver, you know, that Honda wanted to keep because it would help the Japanese fans. He went over to IndyCar, and he's never actually had a decent person nurturing him until he joined AJ Foyt this year. In the first half of the season, he had the best half of the season he's ever had in motorsports because he's actually had someone coaching him in the car.
Yeah.
You could probably say the same about Marco Andretti in IndyCar, actually, but we'll move back to F1. We'll move away from the Nürburgring.
If anyone's actually read Dr. Steve Olvey's book about Life on the Limit, it's like his version of Professor Sid Watkins' great book. Two great books about doctors in racing. But if you ever read this book and what he says about AJ Foyt, it's absolutely astonishing that he's running Sato, and that's where he's having his best career. But yeah, good on him, and it shows that Formula One is a shark pit. But you know, once drivers get out of it, if they realise A, there's a bigger world of motorsport out there, and B, maybe without the pressure of Formula One, they're actually good drivers. It was just Formula One that didn't suit them.
That's a perfect link. We're going to talk about Webber a little bit. We are now into Go on, Dom. Go on.
Sorry, random fact. Takuma Sato raced in NASCAR 2003 leaks.
Did he? Awesome.
Yeah.
That's our random fact of the day.
Explains his ovals, why he's good at ovals then.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We'll move directly on to Mark Webber. So we are in F1 silly season now, because we know that one of the most sought of after drives in F1 period is, you know, up for grabs. That second Red Bull seat. Yes, you know, you're probably going to be a number 2 to Vettel.
Yeah.
But for a lot of drivers, that seat is incredibly sought after. And we know right now that Daniel Ricciardo's got a good chance of migrating up from Scuderia Rosso. We know that Kimi Räikkönen wants to go over there. We know there's a couple of other names in the fray right now. I actually heard someone say Perez, which actually kind of frightened me a little bit.
That'd be a waste of money. He's rubbish. I'm sorry, I'm not
Is it anything to keep him from Ferrari?
Yeah, I know he's quick. Don't get me wrong, he's quick, but I don't like him. I don't know why. It's just a.
He reminds me of a very young Felipe Massa, because he had exactly the same tendencies that Massa had in that first part of his career with Perez, and he needs Whitmarsh to actually coach him and work with him for a couple of seasons and just say, look, I don't care where you come in the championship. I want you to bring that car home in one piece every week and score solid points. Don't go for every banzai move possible. But the thing is that I think the entire driver change for 2014, everyone's going to be waiting to see what happens with that first Red Bull seat, that second Red Bull seat right now. Of course, if Kimi goes to Red Bull, that will then open a number 1 spot at Lotus.
Hulkenberg, yeah, which would be Hulkenberg.
Who's free at the moment? He can go wherever he wants.
Yeah, it'd be this. This is my theory. Shoot me down in flames. Feel free. It's fine. So Kimi goes to Red Bull. Hulkenberg goes to Lotus. Grosjean, it's going to be a dodgy one whether he stays or not. So that's a bit hit and miss. And that's about it, really. You might see Bianchi or one of the other guys get a move for one of the better teams.
Are you assuming Sauber's still there? That's what I'm worried about. Are you assuming Sauber's still going? Because that's what I'm worried about at the minute.
I think someone will come in and help them out.
I hope
they do. But it'd be sad to see them fall by the wayside. Sadly, I know a wind tunnel engineer at Sauber who's leaving in October. So it's not all well and good there. He run a race radio. We used to race radio control cars with his son. So he made the decision to leave beforehand. So that's not a great sign.
But come on,
sadly.
How many times has Sauber been in that situation now? That was the whole thing with when Peter Sauber was running that place. They were, you know, running it to the very limit on a number of years, and they've got lucky. But at the same time, they're always one of the most respected teams. And you know, I always say Sauber and Minardi were always those two teams that came up with innovation. Let's not forget, Minardi was the team that came up with the titanium gearbox for F1 to actually use in an F1 car. No one remembers that. And I remember a quote about Ross Brawn saying he would always go over to Minardi every Grand Prix to see what they were doing on their car because they didn't have the pressure of having to, you know, develop parts to win a world championship. So they were developing parts out of pure engineering joy. But I think, you know, Grosjean, again, I think, you know, he's got to have a very good last part of the season. And it would be good for a French team to have a French driver and carry that on. I don't think that's that strong and important at the moment, however. But of course, let's not forget next year we've got a Ferrari seat coming into play, and I think Hulkenberg would do really well at Ferrari. He's just got to kind of position himself now to get into that seat, and I think he might actually turn down that Lotus seat because of that, because he won't get a 1-year contract.
And it goes quiet.
Anyone? I just want to work out, is that definite? Is Massa definitely given up, or is he moving? Or
Massa will be gone in 2015. Period.
Would anyone? It's what you say about Red Bull. Would anyone go to Ferrari just to be? If anyone goes to Ferrari, they have to be quite young and hope they outlast Alonso and they become the number one. You wouldn't want to go just to finish your career. That's probably why Mark didn't go last year.
True.
He was rumored to go. Yeah, you get a nice Ferrari contract, nice money, and maybe a nice car, road car, but you're not going to win the championship. And surely, if anyone's hungry for the championship, Ferrari is not the place to go unless you are, going to outlive Alonso.
Looking at all the Scuderia for Ferrari tweets that are going on lately, they've just done that Ferrari challenge thing, which Jules Bianchi is heading up. So I would presume if anyone's going to jump in a Ferrari seat when it becomes available, maybe that would be the guy. Maybe he'll get one season in a Ferrari powered car.
Yeah.
That might be better than what he's currently driving.
Ferrari don't just bring people straight in, do they?
No, and then jumping into a number 2 seat in 2015. So maybe there's your timeline, Will.
There we are. Let's move on to the driver's test. F1, it was the young drivers test. It's now the F1 young drivers test with tyre add-on, with actually all F1 drivers allowed to race in it so long as they don't put anything else on the car. Before we went on airport, I talked to you about that, and quite simply, it's not going to be hard for a team to go out with their young driver, crash the car, rebuild it, put a piece on there so that, I don't know, Vettel can go out and run, and then crash it again.
Well, it's Silverstone, don't forget. It's quite hard to crash at Silverstone. We found that with the tyre failures. Even if you lose it at 200 miles an hour, you really can't find the wall. But yeah, it's a bit of a mess, this tyre test, this young drivers test, should I say. Who's going to police it? How are they going to police it? How are you going to make sure things aren't there? And yeah, you could just sit around and work on the tyres all day. It's taking the chance out of the young drivers, really. If you're a young driver, you're looking forward to it. You're a third driver, you don't get Friday mornings probably, but yeah, so then you look forward to the young driver test, and suddenly all this happens, and now you're probably going to just be doing installation laps and maybe straight line test or something, and the grunt of the work is going to be done by the named drivers who already got their chance. So yeah, I feel sorry for the young drivers, but that's just, sometimes this is Formula One. It doesn't do what's best for itself, but just best for the teams.
It does, no. It does best for what's Bernie's pocket, you mean?
I think, though, that in some ways, I mean, all publicity is good publicity. We know that. Unless you're Pirelli. The amount of Pirelli condom jokes that have been going around are amazing. But, I think that the young drivers will get more exposure because of the fact that, you're going to have 10 times more media coverage than you did if it was just the young drivers test alone. For the fans, it's good because you get to see your F1 stars there. But at the same time, the seat time is so important in F1, the testing time. And I think you're right. You're going to want to get your Massas. You're going to want to get your... I don't think Kimi's going to show up. So your Grosjeans and your Rosbergs, etc., to that driver's test. But I think, it's about time that Pirelli's done something, to be fair. Because, I mean, I think people were a little bit too quick to jump on the bandwagon at Silverstone. There was more than one side to that argument, and a lot of that, the change they had to the Nürburgring, making sure you actually put the left-hand side tyre on the left-hand side of the car, for example. I was waiting for the time where they actually put the rear tyres on the front of the car, which surely wasn't too far away, but we are in that situation now where Pirelli really are in dire straits, the same way that Michelin were back after the US Grand Prix 2005.
Yeah, I feel sorry for Pirelli completely. I don't really blame them at all. If I gave you recommendations on how to run my product and you didn't, and then my product failed because of your changes, and then you blame me, I'd be absolutely furious.
Wait, don't we do that every time with a mobile phone when they tell you that you have to charge it all the way up and then it go all the way back down?
Don't jailbreak it or anything like that. I would recommend that. But yeah, I know what you mean. But Pirelli, I feel sorry for them, and they tried to get this I mean, it's been done to death now, tyres, but they tried to get the changes. The teams blocked them because some teams were competitive more than others. And yeah, and what is, you have to look at them. People who don't understand the issue are just blaming Pirelli. The casual fans go, Pirelli do bad tyres. I'm not going to have them on my road car. Why are Pirelli still here? Why don't they just walk off? The teams can have to work on hover cars like Wipeout 2097 because it looks like no one wants to come into Formula One next year. It's too late if you believe Pirelli statements. They have to have next year's tyre ready by September, and you can't do that in 2 months.
Well, one thing that the FIA has done that's good is they've added that little rule to the FIA regulations, pretty much saying that the FIA can change the tyres without any given notice, which I think that and Pirelli might keep that relationship a little bit better for the next few years. However, realistically, Bridgestone have said repeatedly they're not going to come back. Michelin are putting all of their effort into, things like Le Mans. Firestone, they've signed a new contract with IndyCar, so they're staying there. Goodyear, they are very happy being the main supplier for NASCAR. They don't really have to do any work for it at all. You're left with people like Avon Tyres or Hankook, and that's not going to sound pretty cool for F1, is it?
Well, the rumor is that John Hart has Michelin lined up, but
they're heavily in the World Endurance Championship though. So
yeah, true.
They supply the tyres for that mainly. It's like they're one of the biggest suppliers for that. So it's like, what do you do? And it's like, don't Hankook do? Who does DTM? That's Hankook, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah. That's another one that's like, would they play at DTM because DTM's getting, DTM pulls in the crowds as well. So
for me, it's about sex appeal.
Why?
It's about sex appeal for me though, because Goodyear, they had that publicity thing. Bridgestone, everyone knows what Bridgestone is. Pirelli, you have the Pirelli calendar and those pretty much half-naked girls. That's the first thing I used to think about when I was a kid when I thought about Pirelli. Didn't think about the tyres itself. F1 needs that sex appeal, and Hankook. I don't even know what Hankook tyres are. I don't know what their logo is or anything. I think that's a bit of an issue there. And overall, I think F1 needs to sort it out very, very quickly because they are running out of time, even for 2015. I think if they wanted to do something, they should have signed a contract and had a new tyre supply or a new tyre deal in place for the 2014 regulations, because then they could have started from scratch, built the tyres. The tyres would be specifically for the cars, and you have to adapt the car to the tyre, rather than having a tyre which is adapted to the car, which is adapted to the tyre, which is adapted to the car, which is what we essentially have now.
Yeah, and don't forget all the good that Pirelli's done. And this last 3 years have been so much better than any era before. Okay, the lack of refueling helps, but Bridgestone didn't want to play the game that Pirelli play now. And don't forget, they're doing exactly what they're told. Bridgestone were happy to make a tyre that was within 0.2 of each other, soft and hard, and didn't degrade, and it didn't really help the show. Pirelli were told to help the show, and they did. They make tyres with a second in between them, and there's graining and there's degradation, as we all know, and it makes the races great. They're great strategic. They're not just, without 2 or 3 pit stops a race, there's overtaking, and it's really brought the race back to Formula One on the track as well. So that's why I don't want to see Bridgestone back, really, because they don't really want to understand or play the game that their Formula One wants at the minute. And Pirelli have done a good job, in my view. It's just these last couple of races when they're sort of being dragged through the mud.
Well, Bridgestone did their first 2 years in F1, 97, which is the reason why Damon Hill almost won that Grand Prix at Hungary. Yep. And 98, they were owning Goodyear. As soon as they became the sole tyre manufacturer, they gave up. We've got one quick question from Anthony Kenrick before we move on to iRacing stuff. Is Vettel only winning because he has the best car rather than being the best overall driver? And Rob will know, we've had a lot of conversation with this on iRacing. Is Vettel the best driver in F1 right now?
No.
I believe he's in the top 5 of the drivers up there, but I don't believe he's the best driver. Fernando Alonso, Kimi Raikkonen, Lewis, and Nico as well. There's 5 or 6 drivers all in that bracket if you gave them the same car. The only way to see it would be in the same car for all intents and purposes, but I don't believe he's the best driver in F1 though.
Yeah, I think the Formula One world is waiting for him to move teams. I think we're all desperate for him to move teams, and every time he signs another contract with Red Bull, I at least personally take a deep breath and sigh and think, I want to see him somewhere else. And
I go and take his shit.
Yeah, but anytime he wants to leave, Red Bull, I think then you'll see the making of Vettel. And I think maybe he'll leave when Adrian Newey leaves. I don't see Newey sticking around too much longer.
No, neither do I. And I think Vettel is probably one of he's definitely in the top 2 hot lappers. Him and Rosberg are the 2 people I think right now in F1 who's capable of putting the best single lap together. We've seen over the last couple of
Hamilton's pretty
seasons.
decent.
Yeah, he is, but I don't think he's in the same league as those 2. Just
Really?
outside.
Did you not
Just outside. Yes, I did. I did watch a British
Qualifying?
Grand Prix. That was a one.
I
Vettel
disagree
can
with
replicate
all of
it.
that.
Oh, go on, Dom. Let's hear this. Dom.
I mean, let's face it. Lewis is probably the fastest over 1 lap. Prove that time and time again. But I would say that he's coming to a new team, and he is a typical sim racer. Lewis, his driving style. He does a lot of overlap on the pedals, a lot of trail braking. I just don't think that Mercedes is particularly comfortable for him over, with that technique.
He
Whereas
has said that
Nico's been
openly,
there.
hasn't he?
Yeah, Nico's been there for quite a while. He knows exactly what to do with the car, and he's used to it. But I do see Lewis next season being much stronger than Nico. I mean, didn't he cane him in GP2? I don't know.
Yes.
They were teammates, and so I definitely think Lewis has the edge. Vettel for me is a strong driver, but absolutely nowhere near the top kind of 3 guys, and I think Kimi will be close to that. But I'm just hoping Vettel's new teammate teaches him a lesson.
I think
Because
also
we can't have a 4 times world champion.
I think
Boring, isn't it?
also we have got to move on to iRacing in a second. I think in closing for that as well, Vettel in traffic, he's not that good. We've seen that before. We'll see it again. He's not the best pure racer out there. You're going to have to give that to another driver. Vettel's very good at doing the odd lap here or there. He's very good at stringing races together, so long as he's leading from the front. And he also relies on that strategy a little bit as well from Red Bull to be able to get him to the front and keep him at the front.
He relies on a lot of luck.
Yeah.
He's like the luckiest driver in F1.
But we have got to now move over to the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. And unfortunately, we're going to have to say goodbye to a driver. And we'd like to welcome to GlacierTV, Blake Townend. Blake, you've decided to leave the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. Take us through your reasons why.
Hello, everyone. The reasons why for leaving is purely time. It's such a competitive series to be a part of that getting results, you really need to spend a lot of time, and there's other reasons like education that come first at the end of the day.
You're going to be a university student. Education doesn't come first, trust me. But I mean, you've had a good run in that Radical Steel Series car. Talked to you before. Your best finish was P5 actually in your second race at Indianapolis, and you've had some very good moments in the Grand Prix World Championship Series. Which has been your favourite?
As I said in my article on the Radicals website, I think it has to be over the years Sebring. Sebring's been the highlight of my career in the WCS. I've had some good results. Yeah, I qualified 5th in 2012, finished 8th. And it's quite a challenging circuit. It's quite demanding. It's quite bumpy. It's pretty intense competing against the rest of the guys in the WCS. So you can't afford to put a foot wrong. Going through turn 1, you're not sure if you're going to come off, and you're trying to do it nearly flat out. So it's I think it's been the most entertaining one.
And of course, last year we saw you on GlacierTV in the iRacing.com Grand Am Premier Series. You still love your GT racing. You said in your article that you're going to be racing in the STC Black Cup coming this fall. Is GT going to be your new home then? Taking a similar line to Ronan Armstrong?
Yeah, it's I've always been happy in GT cars. I've had many great races. I've showcased my talent in GT cars with being smooth, being careful with the tires, saving fuel. I just enjoy endurance racing more, and it still takes a good amount of time to prepare for any race. But I think in a GT car it's a little more straightforward to prepare the car than the F1 car.
Gymkhanas as well, of course. We've got to talk about Gymkhanas because you love them. Yeah, I know. I've got to bring it up. How many Gymkhana championships is it now?
I've won 3 now in the Legends car, which is it's quite tough to do. It's a monster of a car to handle.
So Gymkhana's good, endurance racing good. Also the support from your team is amazing as well. I've been over there quite a bit the last week. And Andy Kay really is probably, a great mentor for the entire team.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And Andy does a good job. But also the whole of Radicals. There's a lot of support. You got Rob in the channel as well. He gives me a lot of guidance as well. So, the whole team's been brilliant in terms of support over the years.
And is there anyone you'd like to say a thank you / farewell to before we let you leave the World Championship Series?
I just want to say thank you to SteelSeries for sponsoring the team and myself. They've given me great equipment to use. I'd like to thank Radicals for all their support and for bringing me into their team. It's been wonderful, and there'll be many more memories to come as well. I'm looking forward to that. I'd like to thank PSR and GlacierTV for their broadcasts over the year, and iRacing as well for providing the most competitive sim racing championship to date.
Well, we'll see you in more GT action. We'll see you in the FCC Black Cup coming up a little bit later on this year on GlacierTV. Blake, thank you very much for talking to us, and we wish you all the best as you do a Mark Webb and leave the World Championship Series and head over to a bit more sports car racing. We're going to talk about qualifying right now for the 10th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series, which is taking place as we speak from Circuit de Spa Francorchamps. 2 qualifying sessions are taking place, and 35 cars there's 35 spots on the grid. Drivers are trying to make that field. I'm going to bring in Team Redline Principal Dom Duhan once again. Right now, Atty Kirchhoff is sat on provisional pole position, a 1 minute 47.484. However, some of the big guns haven't yet gone out.
All right. Good stuff, Atsy.
Nice one, Dom.
Yeah. I'm just loading up the session. My computer's so old, it'll probably be midway during the race when it picks up. But you've got some pretty good competitors in there. Gregor, Hugo, Atsy, and I think Luke is also pretty close to the pace as well. So should be interesting. But it's all about track position as well in this race, as you know. I'm just hoping the draft model's a bit kind of better than it was last race, because I think it was pretty difficult to get a run on somebody.
Well, let's talk about Atsy first, because he loves this racetrack. And I think if Atsy's going to win a race in the next 3 or 4 rounds, this is his best chance to do so.
He's good here.
Yeah, he loves this track. Of course, it's pretty much the second closest track to home for him as well.
Yeah.
After Zandvoort, he's very good around here. And you talk about Luke McLean as well. I always think about McLean, this being his probably second best racetrack after Sebring.
Yeah, I mean, he was, when you look at the tracks Luke's won at, definitely he was strong here in the last race, but I think Phillip Island's also a really good track there.
Well, except for this year.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a great track. It's definitely a driver's circuit, isn't it? So bizarrely, Greggy used to be an absolute beast here on every other sim, but in DWC hasn't managed to get the win. I'm sure he wants to change that today.
Indeed, never won at this racetrack. He has moved to provisional pole position for the time being, however. Luke McLean has gone second. Gregor Hootie does a 1 minute 47.330. Luke McLean, he goes a 1 minute 47.467. So he right now is about 200ths of a second faster than Atsy. Atsy, he's working himself into the bus stop chicane for what will be his final run of the day. Comes out, nice line, using a lot of the curb there on corner exit. What's it going to be for Atty Kirchhoff? And it's slower there, a 1 minute 47.496. Kirchhoff is down into the fourth position.
Takes the pole.
Yeah, he has, and he's done a 147.262. That is about half a tenth faster than Hutu, and it looks as though that Hutu has got one more chance. So Hutu will go out in the next couple of minutes. He will try to get that pole position back. But your top 5, as it stands, of course, we do have 2 sessions up. We can only get you the information from one of them. Hugo Louise on provisional pole position with a 1 minute 47.267. Gregor Hutu, half a tenth behind in the second position. Luke McLean is then a further 10th and a half back in third. Kirchhoff right behind him. Marty Patilla, a good qualifying from him. He's currently scored in the 5th position in qualifying. But that gap, once again, it's Louise and Hutu on another planet to everyone else. But Louise, what a qualifying lap that was.
Yeah, it was
that's pretty
crazy.
good with the pressure.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, definitely.
That's a good lap. I mean, that's very quick compared to the last race. About 3/10 slower the car. So, but these times are very similar to the times they're doing last time. So they've made a further 3/10 over the season. So the guys are getting better at driving the car for sure.
And we're having a look at Gregor Hutu, actually. He's got himself 1 more lap to go. He's on his out lap at the moment, so we'll check back in on him at the moment. You talked about how strong McLean is. He's out-qualified at the end. McLean, the way it stands right now, he's also going to be on the clean side of the grid. Going to be interesting to see whether him and Hutu can try and find a way past Louis on that run down into Lacombe on lap number 1, Rob.
Yeah, it's... You know what? It's so tight up there. It's ridiculous. I'm actually watching Gregor at the moment. I haven't had the luxury of watching one of these live before. I don't know why I've never done it. It's actually pretty much as exciting as the real stuff, so as the FIA stuff. So this is good. But I've got a dark horse pick here. Marty Patella looks mighty committed everywhere at the moment as well.
Yeah, he's been very strong at this track in the past. His one time, a 1 minute 47.512, he has him done for the session. You have got Stephen Michaels out on the rat track here. I was very harsh on Michaels at the start of the season. I've been very, very complimentary of him for the second half of it. He's just coming out onto the start-finish line. He's going to start his 3rd and final lap any moment now. But you've got Max Dell'Orco on the racetrack, and Dom, Dell'Orco loves this place. And at a track where you can have strategy come into play, you're going to see Dell'Orco do something crazy.
Yeah, Max always pulls it out. Max has been fast for a long time. I was teammates with him about 15 years ago, actually, in F1, and he was one of the top guys there. Max just knows that he usually doesn't do that well in qualifying. Maybe it's his age. But he usually performs in race, and he's super consistent.
Dell'Orco pulls off the racetrack. He wasn't able to do anything better on his 3rd lap, so his day is done. Yuho Abe once again trying to get himself into the field in that number 61 car. Dom, I'm not sure if you saw him last time out, but Abe, really, I mean, someone needs to sign him up now and put him in one of the top teams, because his performance is startling right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a talent, and he's probably going to get better and better.
I wonder if he's radical enough.
I tell you what, right now he's teammates with Yudan Arumi. Arumi, of course, leaving Nexus Esports a little bit early on in the season, working with his compatriot in that number 61 car. Meanwhile, Hugo Louise is back on the racetrack. He is doing his 3rd and final lap. Gregor Hutu is on his 3rd and final lap. I'm just trying to see where Hutu is. It looks as though he's just come out of Stavolo.
He's messed it up.
Yeah, he's not going to get pole.
He got an off track. I was on board with him all the way around that lap, just keeping quiet, and he just got a little bit wide on the exit and just run over too much curb and got himself an off track. So that's him done.
We're going to explain it very quickly to those of you who are new to the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. These drivers have a total of 3 timed laps. The way that normally works is they'll do an out lap, they'll do 1 hot lap, then they'll do reset, and they'll do another out lap and another hot lap. Hugo Louise going to come past the start-finish line. What's it going to be? Will he improve his time? And he will go faster. He is now a full... he's gone faster, actually, by about half a tenth. So now the gap between Hugo Louise and Gregor Hutu is at 1.2 seconds in qualifying. Louise, you have to say, Rob, I said it at the start of the last round at Silverstone, he had to start winning races and he had to start winning them fast. He's, dominated Silverstone and he's on pole for Spa. this could be the comeback that Hugo Louise needed. I mean, yes, it's only 2 races potentially that he might win, but every little point that you gain, start getting into the head of Hutu, thinking, wait a minute, maybe he can start charging back. And I think we're actually setting ourselves up for a very good second half of the season now.
Yeah, it's almost like the Alonso effect in the FIA stuff that, you know, he's just turned it on. He's just gone up that extra gear. He's found an extra cog in the gearbox and clicked into it. And to be honest, to do that to Greg around here that will get in the head. Maybe ask Dom. He knows Greg about anyone. So,
Gregor's a robot. I mean, can you get inside a Terminator's head? Not really, unless you've got some kind of hack program, like Independence Day. So maybe that works. But no, I'm pretty sure Hugo's always mega in qualifying, and but I'd say Gregor's always pretty mega in race, and we'll be on it. But let's see. It's exciting. Makes it more exciting.
It does, and I tell you what, the top 4 guys from the last round at Silverstone. Also, let's not forget, the top 4 guys from the last time we were here in the World Championship Series at the very start of the season. Hugo Louise, Gregor Hutu, Luke McLean, Atty Kirchhoff. Of course, not in the same order that they finished the race in, but they are the top 4 drivers for this race. Hugo Louise, pole position in that number 2, My 3ID car. Gregor Hutu, second position, 14 red line. Luke McLean, third position, 14 red line. Atty Kirchhoff, fourth position, 14 red line. Martin Patella round out the top 5 in that number 12 car. And it does look as though that Kirchhoff, McLean and Hutu, between the 3 of them, Dom, they've got an opportunity to once again try to do something strategic to get past Louise. And right now, the way those points work, I don't think Hutu would care if he wins or McLean wins or Kirchhoff wins. Of course, Hutu wants to win. If any of them can beat Hutu, it will lower the blow on that points gap.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure Gregor's ruthless enough to go for it. But yeah, if one of the other guys finish ahead, certainly that's better. I'm just, it's so tight to overtake, even at Spa. I wonder what you can do tactically, and I wonder if there's just something you can do with fuel, but it's all about guesswork, what the other guys are doing. So we'll see. Should be a good race.
Lights Out will be at a little after 2:05, and it will be live on Glacier TV. Head over to www.glaciertv.com, click on Channel 2 for live coverage of the 10th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. That is all we have time for in the first episode of the F1 show, presented by Glacier TV. We'll be back before the next round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series for more from the wonderful world of the Bernie Ecclestone FOM FIA Parade, and of course from the World Championship Series as well. For myself, Will Vincent, from Paul Hadley, Rob Cast, Dom Duhan, Blake Townend, we'll see you all